Christmas from the Clubhouse.
Again.
Again. And again, and again, and again.
We're very angry.
Yes. Christmas! This episode is our third in the Christmas series.
Yep.
And we thought it would be really fun to turn the nostalgia up to 11, kind of.
As the Christmas Day approaches. Sure.
Yes. So we have a special guest star coming up, and we just thought it would be really fun to do readings of well-known and a couple not well-known.
A couple of them I didn't know.
But nice, like Christmas poems, Christmas short stories, just something you can just turn on and listen to, since nobody watches these things anyway, right? Except for Deb.
Deb Weist, we know you watch.
And Mom.
And my mom.
And Peter Louders.
Oh, and my sister.
And Allie.
Wow, we have 5
We
followers.
have 5 watchers. Holy smokes. So for you 5, we thank you. And for anyone who just tunes in and just kind of tunes out, this episode will kind of be perfect, because it's we're reading stuff with some special guest stars. So this is going to be a little different than our usual episodes,
right,
because we're filming various segments.
It won't be one
hour-long take
of us chatting.
You're welcome. So we'll see you at the end of the episode.
Right.
And we will cast it off to the first poem. So take it away, editor. Ha!
Christmas Bells by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carols play, and wild and sweet the words repeat of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And thought how, as the day had come, the belfries of all Christendom had rolled along the unbroken song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Till ringing, singing on its way, the world revolved from night to day, a voice, a chime, a chant sublime of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then from the black accursed mouth the cannon thundered in the south, and with the sound the carols drowned of peace on earth, goodwill to men. It was as if an earthquake rent the hearthstones of a continent, and made forlorn the households born of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And in despair I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said, for hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then pealed the bells more loud and deep, God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men.
Christmas Eve in Our Village by Phyllis McGinley. Main Street is gay, each lamppost glimmers, crowned with a blue electric star. The gift tree by our fountain shimmers, superbly tall if angular, donated by the men's bazaar. With garlands proper to the times, our doors are wreathed, our lintels strewn. From our 2 steeples sound the chimes, incessant through the afternoon, only a little out of tune. Breathless with boxes hard to handle, the grocery drivers come and go. Madam, the chairman lights a candle to introduce our club's tableau. The hopeful children pray for snow. They cluster, mittened, in the park, to talk of morning, half affrighted, and early comes the winter dark, and early are our windows lighted, to beckon homeward the benighted. The eggnog's lifted for libation, silent at last the postman's ring, but on the plaza, near the station, the carolers are caroling. O little town, the carolers sing.
Hi all, Dasher here. Elliot and Aaron gave me a call and they asked me to read you all a poem. So I'm going to read A Visit from St. Nicholas by Clement Moore. 'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mama in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled our brains for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutter, and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave a luster of midday to objects below. But what to my wandering eyes should appear? But a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer, with a little old driver so lively and quick. I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher! Now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen, to the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves that before that wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle mount to the sky. So up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with a sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples how merry, his cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard on his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly, that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him, in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere they drove out of sight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night."
Oh, for God's sake, what is this? An advertisement for Coca-Cola?
Ebenezer Scrooge, what are you doing here?
I will not stand idly by and allow the Clubhouse consumers to be misled by some saccharine sweet, reductionist vision of a benevolent Saint Nicholas. Away! Away, beast!
Greetings, Clubhouse viewers. Ebenezer Scrooge here. I should like, if I may, to set aside the propaganda and paint for you a more representational portrait of your jolly old Saint Nick. The Boy Who Laughed at Santa Claus by Ogden Nash. In Baltimore there lived a boy. He wasn't anybody's joy. Although his name was J.B.'s Dawes, his character was full of flaws. In school he never led the classes. He hid old ladies' reading glasses. His mouth was open while he chewed, and elbows to the table glued. He stole the milk of hungry kittens, and walked through doors marked "No Admittance." He said he acted thus because there wasn't any Santa Claus. Another trick that tickled J.B.'s was crying "boo" at little babies. He brushed his teeth, they said in town, sideways instead of up and down. Yet people pardoned every sin and viewed his antics with a grin, till they were told by J.B.'s Dawes there isn't any Santa Claus. Deploring how he did behave, his parents quickly sought their grave. They hurried through the portals pearly, and J.B.'s left the funeral early. Like whooping cough from child to child, he sped to spread the rumor wild. Sure as my name is J.B.'s Dawes, there isn't any Santa Claus.
slunk like a weasel or a martin through nursery and kindergarten, whispering low to every tot, "There isn't any, no, there's not. No beard, no pipe, no scarlet clothes, no twinkling eyes, no cherry nose, no sleigh, and furthermore, by Jiminy, nobody coming down the chimney." The children wept all Christmas Eve, and JB's chortled up his sleeve. No infant dared to hang up his stocking for fear of JB's ribald mocking. He sprawled on his untidy bed, fresh malice dancing in his head, when presently, with scalp a-tingling, JB's heard a distant jingling. He heard the crunch of sleigh and hoof, crisply alighting on the roof. What good to rise and bar the door? A shower of soot was on the floor. JB's beheld, oh awe of awes, the fireplace full of Santa Claus. Then JB's fell upon his knees with cries of doubt and pretty please. He howled, "I don't know where you read it. I swear some other fellow said it." "JB's," replied the angry saint, "it isn't I, it's you that ain't. Although there is a Santa Claus, there isn't any JB's Dawes." Said JB's then with impudent vim, "Oh yes there is, and I am him. Your language don't scare me, it doesn't." And suddenly he found he wasn't. From grinning feet to unkempt locks, JB's became a jack-in-the-box. An ugly toy in Santa's sack, mounting the flue on Santa's back. The neighbors heard his mournful squeal. They searched for him, but not with zeal. No trace was found of JB's Dawes, which led to thunderous applause, and people drank a loving cup and went and hung their stockings up. All you who sneer at Santa Claus, beware the fate of JB's Dawes. The saucy boy who told the saint off, the child who got him licked his paint off. And so in the end, the greatest Christmas present isn't a present at all. It's fear. Merry Christmas.
The Gift of the Magi by O. Henry. $1.87. That was all. And 60 cents of it was in pennies. Pennies saved 1 and 2 at a time by bulldozing the grocer and the vegetable man and the butcher until one's cheeks burned with the silent imputation of parsimony that such close dealing implied. 3 times Della counted it. $1.87. And the next day would be Christmas. There was clearly nothing to do but flop down on the shabby little couch and howl. So Della did it, which instigates the moral reflection that life is made up of sobs, sniffles, and smiles, with sniffles predominating. While the mistress of the home is gradually subsiding from the first stage to the second, take a look at the home. A furnished flat at $8 per week. It did not exactly beggar description, but it certainly had that word on the lookout for the mendicancy squad. In the vestibule below was a letter box into which no letter would go, and an electric button from which no mortal finger could coax a ring. Also appertaining thereunto was a card bearing the name Mr. James Dillingham Young. The Dillingham had been flung to the breeze during a former period of prosperity when its possessor was being paid $30 per week. Now, when the income was shrunk to $20, the letters of Dillingham looked blurred, as though they were thinking seriously of contracting to a modest and unassuming D. But whenever Mr. James Dillingham Young came home and reached his flat above, he was called Jim, and greatly hugged by Mrs. James Dillingham Young, already introduced to you as Della, which is all very good. Della finished her cry and attended to her cheeks with the powder rag. She stood by the window and looked out dully at a gray cat walking a gray fence in a gray backyard. Tomorrow would be Christmas Day, and she only had $1.87 with which to buy Jim a present. She had been saving every penny for months. With this result, $20 a week doesn't go far. Expenses had been greater than she had calculated. They always are. Only $1.87 to buy a present for Jim. Her Jim. Many a happy hour she had spent planning for something nice for him, something fine and rare and sterling, something just a little bit near to being worthy of the honor of being owned by Jim. There was a pier glass between the windows of the room. Perhaps you have seen a pier glass in an $8 flat. A very thin and very agile person may, by observing his reflection in a rapid sequence of longitudinal strips, obtain a fairly accurate conception of his looks. Della, being slender, had mastered the art. Suddenly, she whirled from the window and stood before the glass. Her eyes were shining brilliantly, but her face had lost its color within 20 seconds. Rapidly, she pulled down her hair and let it fall to its full length. Now, there were two possessions of the James Dillingham Youngs in which they both took a mighty pride. One was Jim's gold watch that had been his father's and grandfather's. The other was Della's hair. Had the Queen of Sheba lived in the flat across the air shaft, Della would have let her hair hang out the window some day to dry just to depreciate Her Majesty's jewels and gifts. Had King Solomon been the janitor with all his treasures piled up in the basement, Jim would have pulled out his watch every time he passed just to see him pluck at his beard from envy. So now Della's beautiful hair fell about her, rippling and shining like a cascade of brown waters. It reached below her knee and made itself almost a garment for her. And then she did it up again nervously and quickly. Once she faltered for a minute and stood still while a tear or two splashed on the worn red carpet. On went her brown jacket, on went her old brown hat. With a whirl of skirts and with the brilliant sparkle still in her eyes, she fluttered out of the door and down the stairs to the street, where she stopped, and the sign read, Madame Sofronie, hair goods of all kinds. One flight up Della ran and collected herself, panting. Madame, large, too white, chilly, hardly looked the Sofronie. Will you buy my hair? Della asked. I buy hair, said Madame. Take your hat off and let's have a sight at the looks of it. Down rippled the brown cascade. $20, said Madame, lifting the mass with a practiced hand. Give it to me quick, said Della. Oh, and the next 2 hours tripped by on rosy wings. Forget the hashed metaphor. She was ransacking the stores for Jim's present. She found it at last. It surely had been made for Jim and no one else. There was no other like it in any of the stores, and she had turned them all inside out. It was a platinum fob chain, simple and chaste in design, properly proclaiming its value by substance alone and not by meretricious ornamentation, as all good things should do. It was even worthy of the watch. As soon as she saw it, she knew it must be Jim's. It was like him, quietness and value. The description applied to both. $21 they took from her for it, and she hurried home with the 87 cents. With that chain on his watch, Jim might be properly anxious about the time in any company. Grand as the watch was, he sometimes looked at it on the sly on account of the old leather strap that he used in place of a chain. When Della reached home, her intoxication gave way a little to prudence and reason. She got out her curling irons and lighted the gas and went to work repairing the ravages made by generosity added to love, which is always a tremendous task, dear friends, a mammoth task. Within 40 minutes, her head was covered with tiny, close-lying curls that made her look wonderfully like a truant schoolboy. She looked at a reflection in the mirror long, carefully, and critically. If Jim doesn't kill me, she said to herself, before he takes a second look at me, he'll say I look like a Coney Island chorus girl. But what could I do? Oh, what could I do with $1.87? At 7 o'clock, the coffee was made and the frying pan was on the back of the stove, hot and ready to cook the chops. Jim was never late. Della doubled the fob chain in her hand and sat on the corner of the table near the door that he always entered. Then she heard his step on the stair away down on the first flight, and she turned white for just a moment. She had a habit of saying little silent prayers about the simplest everyday things, and now she whispered, Please, God, make him think I am still pretty. The door opened and Jim stepped in and closed it. He looked thin and very serious, Poor fellow. He was only 22 and had to be burdened with a family. He needed a new overcoat and he was without gloves. Jim stopped inside the door, as immovable as a setter at the scent of quail. His eyes were fixed upon Della, and there was an expression in them that she could not read, and it terrified her. It was not anger, nor surprise, nor disapproval, nor horror, nor any of the sentiments that she had been prepared for. He simply stared at her fixedly with the peculiar expression on his face. Della wriggled off the table and went for him. "Jim, darling," she cried, "don't look at me that way. I had my hair cut off and sold it because I couldn't have lived through Christmas without giving you a present. It'll grow out again. You won't mind, will you? I just had to do it. My hair grows awfully fast. Say Merry Christmas, Jim, and let's be happy. You don't know what a beautiful, nice gift I've got for you." "You've cut off your hair?" asked Jim, laboriously, as if he had not arrived at that patent fact yet after the hardest mental labor. "Cut it off and sold it," said Della. "Don't you like me just as well anyhow? I'm me without my hair, ain't I?" Jim looked about the room curiously. "You say your hair is gone," he said with an air of almost idiocy. "You needn't look for it," said Della. "It's sold. I tell you, sold and gone too. It's Christmas Eve, boy. Be good to me, for it went for you. Maybe the hairs on my head were numbered," she went on with a sudden serious sweetness, "but nobody could ever count my love for you. Shall I put the chops on, Jim?" Out of his trance, Jim seemed quickly to wake. He enfolded his Della. For 10 seconds, let us regard with discreet scrutiny some inconsequential object in the other direction. $8 a week or $1 million a year, what is the difference? A mathematician or a wit would give you a wrong answer. The Magi brought valuable gifts, but that was not among them. This dark assertion will be illuminated later on. Jim drew a package from his overcoat pocket and threw it upon the table. "Don't make any mistake, Dell," he said, "about me. I don't think there's anything in the way of a haircut or a shave or a shampoo that could make me like my girl any less. But if you'll unwrap that package, you may see why you had me going a while at first." White fingers and nimble tore at the string and paper, and then an ecstatic scream of joy, and then, alas, a quick feminine change to hysterical tears and wails, necessitating the immediate employment of all the comforting powers of the lord of the flat. For there lay the combs, the set of combs side and back that Della had worshipped for a long time in a Broadway window. Beautiful combs, pure tortoiseshell with jeweled rims, and just a shade to wear with a beautiful vanished hair. They were expensive combs, she knew, and her heart had simply craved and yearned over them without the least hope of possession. And now they were hers, but the tresses that should have adorned the coveted adornments were gone. But she hugged them close to her bosom, and at length she was able to look up with dim eyes and a smile and say, "My hair grows so fast, Jim." And then Della leaped up like a little singed cat and cried, "Oh, oh!" Jim had not yet seen his beautiful present. She held it out to him eagerly upon her open palm. The dull, precious metal seemed to flash with the reflection of her bright and ardent spirit. "Isn't it a dandy, Jim? I hunted all over town to find it. We'll have to look at the time 100 times a day now. Give me your watch. I want to see how it looks on it." Instead of obeying, Jim tumbled down on the couch and put his hands under the back of his head and smiled. "Dell," he said, "let's put our Christmas presents away and keep them a while. They're too nice to use just at present. I sold the watch to get the money to buy your combs. And now suppose you put the chops on." The Magi, as you know, were wise men, wonderfully wise men who brought gifts to the babe in the manger. They invented the art of giving Christmas presents. Being wise, their gifts were no doubt wise ones, possibly bearing the privilege of exchange in case of duplication. And here I have lamely related to you the uneventful chronicle of two foolish children in a flat who most unwisely sacrificed for each other the greatest treasures of their house. But in a last word to the wise of these days, let it be said that of all those who give gifts, these two were the wisest. Of all who give and received gifts, such as they are the wisest. Everywhere they are the wisest. They are the Magi.
Wow,
Wasn't that delightful?
that was nice.
That was nice.
And special guest star Dasher the reindeer. Ebenezer Scrooge, where did he come from? That's crazy.
He's pretty creepy.
I found him handsome though.
I found him a little creepy.
I was drawn to him. we're going out next weekend. Wine tasting if you'd like to join us.
No, I'll pass. Thank you.
Not coming, have plans. Fair. Fair enough.
You know, Elliot, I wanted to mention it was nice of you to dress up for this.
You know what, Aaron, I wanted to mention, shut up. I have one Christmas sweater.
And one hat.
And what? Okay, not everyone has like 6 pairs of antlers lying around their house. I do like these ones the best though, because they're glittery.
They're glittery and they have a bow.
Although, the bouncy ones were fun.
Yeah, I think that would have made my head hurt though.
It would have made my head hurt.
Anyway.
Yes. We have one more
reading.
that everyone's kind of familiar with.
Right.
But, you know, you can't really do a Christmas literature video without including it. And no, sadly, it's not Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. That would take us like 2 hours.
We already told you what movies to watch if you so choose.
All of them. So, let me just pull up my encyclopedia here. It's actually a Wikipedia. It's new. I don't know if you've heard of it yet. It's Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus.
Yep.
Yes, and it's from an editorial called Is There a Santa Claus? Now, it appeared in the September 21st, 1897 edition of the New York Sun. And the story is little Virginia O'Hanlon. She wrote in to the editor of the Sun and asked for definitive answer.
Right.
Is there a Santa Claus? And Thomas P. Church, who was a very respected reporter at that time, was given the assignment to answer her.
Right.
And to answer her, he did. And it was so eloquent. And, you know, newspapers just don't write like that anymore. Nobody really does.
No.
It's so great. And so...
We need to read the letter that Virginia
Yeah,
wrote.
yeah. We've got this here. You go ahead,
This
you
is
read
what
the
little
letter.
Virginia wrote.
This is what she wrote.
Dear editor, I am 8 years old. Some of my little friends say there is no Santa Claus. I love it that she says they're her little friends.
My little friends.
Papa says, if you see it in the sun, it's so. Please tell me the truth. Is there a Santa Claus? Virginia O'Hanlon. That's so sweet.
It's so cute. And it caught the editor's eye, and he gave it to Mr. Church, and Mr. Church answered with aplomb. And, you know, I think really to read this particular response, we needed a very special guest.
We really, yeah.
And viewers of the Clubhouse, prepare yourselves.
Because this is a big one.
Because our special guest is none other than Santa Claus himself, coming to us live via satellite in a Clubhouse first. We're doing a live via satellite thing.
We'll see if we can make this
We'll
work.
see if we can make this work. So I see our technicians are frantically pulling switches and turning
Switches and knobs.
dials and knobs. There's sparks. It's like Igor and Young Frankenstein. And we got him.
Is he there?
Santa?
Santa?
Santa, can you hear us?
Oh! Hello, Aaron and Elliot!
Santa Claus!
I'm a huge fan of the Clubhouse.
You're making me blush a little,
stop.
Santa.
Come on. It's too much now.
I never miss an episode. You're scintillating.
Yes, so you're going to read for us the response by Thomas.
Yes. That's what I'm here for. Virginia, your little friends are wrong. They have been affected by the skepticism of a skeptical age. They do not believe except they see. They think that nothing can be which is not comprehensible by their little minds. All minds, Virginia, whether they be men's or children's, are little. In this great universe of ours, man is a mere insect, an ant in his intellect, as compared with the boundless world about him, as measured by the intelligence capable of grasping the whole of truth and knowledge. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. He exists as certainly as love and generosity and devotion exist, and you know that they abound and give to your life its highest beauty and joy. Alas, how dreary would be the world if there were no Santa Claus.
It would be as dreary as if there were no Virginias. There would be no childlike faith then, no poetry, no romance to make tolerable this existence. We should have no enjoyment except in sense and sight. The eternal light with which childhood fills the world would be extinguished. Not believe in Santa Claus? You might as well not believe in fairies. You might get your papa to hire men to watch in all the chimneys on Christmas Eve to catch Santa Claus, but even if they did not see Santa Claus coming down, what would that prove? Nobody sees Santa Claus, but that is no sign that there is no Santa Claus. The most real things in the world are those that neither children nor men can see. Did you ever see fairies dancing on the lawn? Of course not. But that's no proof that they are not there. Nobody can conceive or imagine all the wonders there are unseen and unseeable in the world. You may tear apart the baby's rattle to see what makes the noise inside, but there is a veil covering the unseen world which not the strongest man, nor even the united strength of all the strongest men that ever lived could tear apart. Only faith, fancy, poetry, love, romance can push aside that curtain and view and picture the supernal beauty and glory beyond. Is it all real? Ah, Virginia, in all this world, there is nothing else real and abiding. No Santa Claus. Thank God he lives, and he lives forever. 1,000 years from now, Virginia, nay, 10 times 10,000 years from now, he will continue to make glad the heart of childhood.
So good.
So good.
So good. And who better to read it than Santa Claus himself?
Well, I'm glad you liked it.
Santa, I know this is a busy time of year for you.
Right, very
Couple
busy.
weeks. So I see that you're in your workshop, probably hard at work. So we'll let you get back to it. And we just want to thank you so much.
Merry
Santa.
Christmas to all!
Merry Christmas!
And to all a good night! Oh.
Okay, so
Okay.
Santa Claus.
Santa Claus.
What? All right. No,
What?
you can let him go.
Please let that man get back to work.
I know he's just kill the feed.
Oh, God.
Oh my, okay. We have to go deal with Igor. So we wish you a very Merry Christmas.
Very
we have
Merry Christmas.
one more episode coming up, and it is going to be a doozy.
So that will be Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve day, we're going to post that one. So while you're doing your Christmas Eve shenanigans, you can just put it on and just enjoy. We won't spoil anything. It's going to be awesome. No, stop. Just stop. Stop.
They're
Okay.
gonna burn the place down.
All right.
We gotta
Well,
go.
bye everyone.
Bye. Merry
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. No. No.
In this world of doom and gloom, we wanted a fun place to go. So we went right ahead and started our very own online show. So if you're like us and in need of fun,